The US election is now just over a month away and the race remains as tight as ever. Joining me live is Professor of Political Science at the University of California, DeSipio. Lewis, let's start with this. Donald Trump on Google.
President Trump's thin skin comes through again. He saw some bad coverage of himself on Google and blamed the platform. This is just a way of getting attention, and I doubt will lead to much action should he become president again.
It's very tight, isn't it? It's almost impossible to pick.
That's absolutely right. Because we have the electoral college system where a handful of states become very, very important, the elections in those states are what's going to determine the outcome of the presidency. And in each of those states, the polling is and has been for the last month or so within the margin of error. This, I think, is unhealthy for the system, but also creates a disproportionate focus on those 7 states. And that's where all of the attention is going to be for the next 40 days.
When we move away from all the rhetoric and chatter, it's going to get down to some basic things, isn't it? Like cost of living, like the economy. Kamala Harris in the process of outlining an economic plan.
Yeah, she has done as Democrats have done before and issued a very extensive document, 75 or 80 pages of specific proposals. Few people will read this, even in the media. And what it comes down to is a set of promises to protect the middle class. Some tax breaks for recent parents, some tax breaks for small business people, and a commitment to growing the economy, as has been the reality in the United States for the last 3 or 4 years, even if that hasn't been so clear to many in the electorate. President Trump, on the other hand, has promised to return to what many voters see as the halcyon days of his administration, at least before COVID. Without a lot of specifics. His only major specific is that he will renew the tax cuts that he enacted early in his administration that gave a big tax break to the ultra wealthy. That's not popular in the electorate, but he seems to stick with it.
What about the vice president's debate? Will it have much impact, if anything, in the swing states?
The easy answer as a political scientist is no. Vice presidential debates have not proven to be particularly important in the past. This election, though, is a challenge for the reason that we mentioned early in our discussion. With the race so close, a small surge that appeals to 10 or 20,000 voters in Nevada or in North Carolina could ultimately determine the election. So I think each of the vice presidential nominees, each of whom are good public speakers, will be trying to target some messages to specific parts of the electorate that they think they might be able to win over the next few weeks. If they're successful at that, we might not even be aware of it, but it could shift 10 or 20,000 votes, and that could determine the outcome of the election.
The Middle East is on a razor's edge, and of course, Joe Biden has come out this morning applauding the death of the leader of Hezbollah. How do you see what's happening in the Middle East play out with regards to the US election?
Oh, it played a very important role during the primaries. There was a significant share of traditional Democratic primary voters who refused to support President Biden in some key states in the primaries. In the general election, it's proven to be much less important. Vice President Harris has been able to articulate a message, calling for a 2-state solution, calling for a ceasefire. And that seems, at least for the time being, to have calmed some dissenters on the Democratic side. Former President Trump has not been pressed to come up with his solution to what's going on in the Middle East, which is probably wise because I'm sure he doesn't have one. But so he's gotten a little bit of a free ride on those issues.
Standing next to Volodymyr Zelensky over the past few days, Donald Trump said it takes 2 to tango. It looked very uncomfortable, particularly for the Ukrainian leader. What did you make of all of that?
Well, I think Ukraine knows that if former President Trump becomes president again, they will be pressured to give up territory. And they're, at least at this stage, very unwilling to do that. President Trump thinks there is a simple solution, and that's to give in to Putin. Neither the Biden administration nor Zelensky and the Ukrainians are very supportive of that.
Many pollsters, experts, think that Donald Trump's going to lose this election, and part of their reason is because he hasn't found a way to target his opposition like he did with Joe Biden. It was brilliantly choreographed from many analysts' perspective with Joe Biden. He knew what he was going at. It really does seem, even from where we're watching, that he's missing his target with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I think two things are going on. One is he doesn't understand Harris in a way that he had a sense of Clinton and certainly had a sense of Biden. So he hasn't found the message that's working. I think the second thing is he's a little bit off his game. His age is showing. He's not on the stump as often, and he's not able to test messages with his base that, many of which don't work initially, but he finds the one that does, and then he uses it over and over again. So he hasn't been as successful this time in coming up with a simple message. Comrade Kamala doesn't really do a good job. Calling her a Marxist really doesn't do a good job. So he hasn't found that message yet. He has 40 days, and he's been successful in the past, so that may change. But for now, he's playing the defense more than the offense, and he's not comfortable in that position.
Are you prepared to pick a winner yet?
Certainly not. As an avid reader of the polls and of the media, of course, I see a tide race. And as I think dangerous as that is, ultimately, that's where we are right now. We have another 40 days. I think the Democrats have done a better job with their ground game, recruiting new participants. But that we have yet to see whether that will work or not.
40 days doesn't seem a long time, but it could be an eternity when it comes to a US election. Lewis, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure, Tim.
And for more on the election, tune in Wednesday for the highly anticipated vice presidential debate between Republican VP nominee J.D. Vance and Democrat Tim Walz. We'll be simulcasting the CBS debate live from New York from 11 a.m.